What's up, Reapers? My name's Seth, and today we're going to be talking about the Trove recent dev live stream. Now, we've got not the most exciting information today, but we have information talking about stuff that's going to be coming down the line that's going to be exciting. Most of all, I want to give a shout out to Merc because he ended up showing me a clip of the developers in the live stream. Actually, I don't know whether this was an accident or not, saying the May update for Trove. They actually referred to it as the May update. So we know, hashtag confirmed, that the PvP update is going to be in fact coming out next month. That's absolutely crazy how close it is. But it's going to be PvP focused. That's something that we do already know. The devs have kind of been hinting at it. And they also mentioned that this week or next week's live stream that they have is going to end up actually showing a lot of the new stuff. And they kind of end up dropping some more hints with some of the questions that we end up getting answered today. But for the most part, there are a lot of questions that we are going to end up most likely skipping over just because I don't know if you guys are entirely interested in it, but we'll take a quick little peek. So let's just get started with it. And before we do, be sure to hit that like button. Makes video show up in searches and stuff. Could you do something about early club progression? That's a very vague question, but the developers say we will lower the amount of experience for earlier club levels as part of the next major release, significantly decreasing for club levels 1 to 3 and a meaningful reduce from 4 to 6. Exact numbers are to be determined. Who honestly cares? It just means less grinding for your club XP, which is a good thing because honestly speaking, not that many people end up actually grinding up their clubs, except for some at the end game that kind of force people to grind up their clubs and stuff like that, right? Like it's just kind of how it is. I think most of all it's got to do with the fact that the developers don't seem to realize that people just generally don't like farming for adventurine because of how tedious it is, not so much that they don't want to do it. Am I the only one that thinks about this, thinks this in this specific way? Let me know in the comments down below if you disagree. Can we get a Chaos Core sync similar to Luxian with Dragon Coins? I think that the developers completely misunderstood this question because they actually say, not sure we'll go full Luxian, but we don't deny an alternative use would be a good to have. Now, they specifically said not, they didn't say anything about Luxian. They were just saying similar to Luxian, talking about Chaos Core sync, which honestly speaking, there's no reason for that whatsoever. Like seriously, who cares? Having more Chaos Cores is a good thing. But it would be kind of nice if we ended up having, I guess, maybe if we had more, because then there would be more incentive for people to open their Chaos chests rather than just once a week. But you gotta understand that lots of players that are coming to the game now actually lose out on a lot of Chaos factor because we're not actually given that anymore. Like old school players such as myself ended up gaining more Chaos factor from other means, but they're not really, they've removed a couple of those now, and thus most people don't really log in and get as many Chaos chests as we do. Can the new packs have credit options? They aren't extra life where you are needing the numbers for the first 50 days, and it is devaluing credits that could be purchased. So I guess it's kind of a meaner way. Like people are starting to get very frustrated at the developers for making this decision, which I think people need to realize that this is not necessarily a decision by the developers. Most of all, it's got to do with like the people in charge, probably like the CEO or something like that, right? Somebody in charge of marketing, but there is a legitimate reason why a lot of the packs are still worth money only, and they actually have a very, very lengthy explanation for it, but for the most part, it's because they want those packs to show up on consoles, because if the packs are worth money, then they can show up on the console's home screen, basically advertising the game right then and there to people that otherwise might not actually know what it is, despite the fact that, honestly speaking, that does seem a little bit strange because in this day and age it's very, very rare that you end up getting random click-throughs on not only just YouTube videos in general, but also just for video games in general. Like, you know, you'll end up finding out about Trove through the internet, not necessarily through the homepage on the PS4 or Xbox, but that's kind of their justification for having certain packs be in the store, which I completely agree with, them being worth cash shop money only, but there are a lot of packs that they could end up swapping over to credit packs that I think would end up ultimately making them more money from the existing player base rather than the fantasy of having new players coming into the game. But that's just me. I'm just a random player who's been playing this game for years. I don't know how much money they're making off this game. Will the Gunslinger's dominance over all other classes in terms of ease of use and raw performance ever be addressed? The class is just too good at everything. Gunslinger is in dire need of an identity rework. No one class should be the best AoE and single target DPS. Clearly this person has no experience with U9 grinding, because the Gunslinger is not that good for U9 farming. Like, you can use it for U9 grinding, but it gets outshined by a lot of other characters. This question most obviously is being directed at Shadow Towers, which Shadow Towers, again, we've actually already seen the developers do a very, very good workaround by making the Draco actually the strongest character for clearing Shadow Tower dungeons, and the Gunslinger more for killing Shadow Titans, which I feel is a very good role for that character. And if they end up tweaking that, all that they could really do from this point on is make the Gunslinger less relevant. And it would be bad, I personally think. But the developers say that we agree that the Gunslinger is powerful. It's powerful and it's too far ahead of other classes. Our approach generally would be to nerf the Gunslinger, but we intend to do a buff less effective classes and bring them more in line, which I completely agree with that statement. I think that that's way better. Also, we know that they're secretly buffing the classes, not so much that they can keep up with the Gunslinger, but more so because we know U10 is coming around the corner, and they're probably going to end up making it particularly powerful. Will Fae Trickster ever sow itself on the rework list again? Get itself on the rework list again, I guess. All underperforming classes are on the rework list, and that list will be revisited this summer for the U10 release, targeting later this year. That's kind of interesting that they say that, because so far we've only gotten one rework per update. And unless they end up having a big rework of all the classes come out at the same time as U10 does, which could possibly end up happening. But even then, that's the whole thing, is it's like without players being able to test the rework, it just kind of feels like a no-brainer that it just is going to end up ending badly, doesn't it? Like, I don't know. So anyways, somebody also asked, what are the odds of more tomes being added to the future? Please not Legendary Tomes developers. You guys are obsessed with them. Cinnabar being so key in Luminopolis crafting, the fact that there isn't a tome for it, it's rather difficult ore to mine, blah, 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 blah. The answer, they say, is they are considering adding a variety of tomes. We already discussed this, in recent, developer live streams, where they said they're going to have one for Fey Dust at the forefront, and then they're also going to end up adding a Cinnabar tome. Yes, that is confirmed. Can Plasmium either be removed from the Neon Cache loot table or have its amount increased? Getting the same amount of Plasmium from a lesser Neon Cache as I'd get from a scrap case is more than a bit frustrating, and the developers finally hunker down and say that they agree, because we've gotten this question asked to them over and over again, maybe even by the same person. And they just kept kind of saying, like, dancing around it, saying, oh, we're not going to do that. No, there's no reason to. But they say it's agreed. It will be changed in the upcoming update. Adjustments was made about a week ago already and should be in the next patch. The average amount is about 205, and lesser Neon Caches have 350, factoring in rarer and higher quantity rolls. So you can actually get even more than 350 Plasmium from the lesser caches, which I think is great, because honestly speaking, Plasmium and just grinding the new resources for the resistor stuff is generally really, really difficult for free-to-play players, even if you're grinding rampage challenges, which are few and far between. I know there's been mention of PvP being updated and fixed quite a bit. Has there been any discussion of possibly balancing it out better? There are a couple of classes that are basically insta-kill and make playing it incredibly frustrating. I don't know why I'm tripping over my own tongue here, but the developers go on to say that we highly suggest watching the live stream next week. We've recognized the current challenges, and we have something explosive on the horizon, and the whole team is hooked on it. Stay tuned. So Maybe this could possibly mean that they're going to start stealing some stuff from Overwatch. The hooked line has me thinking that you get a whole, polling thing, or maybe it's got to do with different game modes or something like that. Honestly, I don't really know what they're thinking or what they're doing. Hopefully it's something exciting. The developers have confirmed that this PvP update is going to end up staying separate from the game progression, the same as PvP is right now, so no forced content. It's just going to be something fun on the side that hopefully doesn't end up getting old after a while, because I mean, let's face it, the developers being hooked on it is completely different than the actual Trove player base being hooked on it, you know what I mean? So anyways, PS4 invite fix. Why is it taking so long? They pretty much just have a lengthy response saying that they are trying to find a solution, but it is, most likely going to be upcoming in the May update, but otherwise, it's a pretty difficult issue for them to end up figuring out. Will Lorekeeper's Dragon Egg be obtainable via Luxion or some other way again? This was the first Dragon Egg that was actually launched with the daily login right here. The daily login tokens, generally speaking, I feel is a very, very terrible system. I think that it should just be one overall category of daily login items that slowly either get added to the game and one type of token added to the game that you could potentially end up buying out of the cash shop, because doing something like this, I mean, this is just a fancier form of Luxion, generally speaking. Everything in the game is suffering from the fact that it's just redistribute chaos chest items. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what is the daily login tokens other than you have to log in to get the tokens so that you can end up getting the mount, just so that you can end up getting mastery. And unfortunately, this seems to be a perpetual cycle with Trove's development that I feel is fundamentally flawed and ultimately going to end up, leading to various problems that we have already started to see, what with the number of dragons and the developers themselves having to retire certain items out of the chaos chest because the chaos crafter is starting to get too packed full of items that is starting to have performance issues. Like, these are problems that should be addressed right now, not way in the future. Anyways, rant over. Why can't we see our remaining patron time on console? They say that that's a console limitation because obviously you were running the game on different, different versions. Is going to end up being very difficult, but console players, don't worry, because we actually can't see how much patron we actually have on PC either, unless we end up going to the Trove website, in which case, yeah, it kind of sucks for console players, but it just sucks in general that you can't keep track of all of your patron stuff. So anyways, what they ended up saying about the Lorekeeper Dragon Egg, because I completely skipped over that, sorry, they say that it's in their list to keep an eye on it in the following months. There will be a way Luxion there will be a way via Luxion to get the Lorekeeper Dragon Egg. So it is going to end up being confirmed as something they're going to end up bringing into the game. Will you guys add some way to keep track of all statuses of each clubs they are in? So the same info we see, such as primary club information, meaning that would you be able to see like club XP, clue bits, level, and all of that stuff in these other menus? By honestly speaking, I think that you should simply be able to click on this and it should just load this up as the main tab and you should be able to see everything on it. The primary club thing, although I know what they were going for with the whole fixtures thing, I feel that that's something that ultimately would have to go, because the primary club system in itself is very, very flawed and in a lot of ways keeps players from actually being in the clubs that they want, what with the timer and limitation. And I mean, it makes sense because they don't want you just club hopping so that you can end up getting all these things. But honestly speaking, what's the point in being invited to a club if you have to go through another process of actually making it your main? But again, that could just be me. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below, because maybe there's a better opinion out there. What is the priority of stuff on that list? What list? But anyways, the developers' response say prioritize main content and systems, early summer release, and likely reviewed after that. So maybe late summer, early fall. I really have no idea what that means. Maybe that question wasn't typed out correctly or something. I don't know. I think it's talking about just the club update or something like what we just talked about. I'm not entirely sure. Possible to add Shadow Tower Quest NPC. We'll consider it. It's a good suggestion. Why isn't there Prime World gem box and collect key fragment quests? Perhaps add quest NPCs in Prime Worlds. The developers say that we went with the adventures that would support the largest amount of player base first, but we'll be adding more over time. It's funny that they actually should say that. Clearly they are planning to end up adding like more quest NPCs, more fixtures and frameworks and stuff like that in the future. Yet, why is the system so fundamentally flawed from the get-go, where you can't end up, accepting or completing quests from your quest menu? Which they did talk about how that was possible, but it was going to end up being an extremely difficult process for them, which is understandable. So I think that they should move ASAP to end up making it so that the adventures quests are going to end up actually being, good, like a longer period of time to end up completing the quest that would ultimately end up giving you more adventurine, rather than having these short burst quests. Like, it just kind of is weird. But anyways, last question here. We didn't end up skipping through any of them like I thought we would, but any word on the progression patch that's going to be coming out? Will it be the next major patch, or a patch down the road sometime this summer or into the fall? Now, this has me a little bit worried, but the developers say that we have a major release planned for early summer. That's going to be the May update. I don't know why they say it's major. I guess because it's overhauling things. And the progression milestone is going to end up being the update after that. We're targeting the end of the year, and it's in the works right now. So we previously mentioned that for U10, we want to be a special. We want it to be special, and are working hard to accomplish this. And the early summer update launches the journey that lays down the foundation for what's to come. I guess it's just, I don't know how PvP ends up launching, and getting us excited for U10. Like, that's just kind of weird. But disappointingly enough, did you guys end up reading between the lines there? Because they say that they have the major update planned for early summer, which is going to be this May update. And then the progression milestone, which is supposed to be the U10 update, which is going to end up changing the progression to the game and everything like that. They say that they're targeting at the end of the year now. Now, the reason why I'm talking about reading between the lines here, guys, is because they promised us 4 major updates this year, with U10 actually being one that would fall into the fall, and then there being one last big update at the end of the year. Now, it sounds to me like either they're going to have progression come first and then U10 at the end of the year, or maybe we're just getting 3 major updates this year altogether. Maybe I'm reading too deep into this, but doesn't that sound like that's what they're doing? And it's not that I mean to be skeptical or anything like that, but we have seen in the past plenty of times the developers have promised us one thing and delivered another, which I'm not trying to like call them out or be a jerk about it or anything like that. Or even just sound like I'm reluctant to get excited about these things. It's just, as of right now, it's all kind of up in the air, and I wouldn't really take their word for it, despite the fact that they're the developers themselves. I would just kind of wait and see, until it ends up coming out. But either way, it still is exciting stuff. I'm still looking forward to seeing what they end up doing with PvP, and more importantly, what they end up doing with progression, as well as U10. Anyways, let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. Maybe you think I'm a crazy idiot. Go ahead and say so. But otherwise, maybe you think that these things are exciting, or maybe you have your own theories that I would be very interested in reading, because we can end up possibly taking that into next week's dev live stream highlight, right? But next, this next live stream from the developers is supposed to show off some of the new PvP stuff, so at least we'll get a nice sneak peek of all that, right? Anyways, thanks for watching. Very much appreciated. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. And if you want to support me, you can always sponsor my YouTube channel. Check links in the description for my merch store right here, as well as Gawkbox, which is a way that you can donate to me for free. Sign on and stay epic, everybody.